Diva spot. Welcome to 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 Diva spot. You're tuned in to that on-the-spot diva. From east to the west coast, her grind's off the meter. That blog talk Shira. Products, log on and tune in, cause the lines might be tied up. I love it, boy, you already know. You're listening to the only Diva Spot Radio.
What's going on, Dons and Divas, Kings and Queens? It's your girl, Diva Ebony B, and you are now tuned in live to the Diva Spot Lounge podcast. I have an incredible powerhouse queen here today with me. I'm so excited to have Aleta Haskins-Turner in the building, in the lounge with me tonight. And thank you guys all for being here. I want to give my shout out to Beat Street Divas. I want to give my shout out to YouTube. I want to give my shout outs to Phenomenal Radio. And I am so thankful today for all of our sponsors. Today's show is sponsored by Nurse Glamming. Make sure you check out Nurse Glamming in all its entirety. And we are thankful to have our sponsor. Also, our show, outside of our show being sponsored by Nurse Glamming, our show is sponsored by Queen's Royal Sip. So I am so grateful to be here. YouTube, you guys go ahead while you're here, like, share, and subscribe, and go ahead and comment while you're watching us live on Facebook Live and while you're watching us live on Twitter, Periscope, and on YouTube. You can ask a question or give a comment, and we will make sure we put it right here on the screen. So we are thankful for you to be here. But without further ado, I want to bring on the phenomenal, the bodacious, the favored, the blessed, and the community actionist, not activist, because she about that action, Aleta Haskins-Turner. Miss Turner, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored and blessed.
Wow, welcome to Diva Spot. You haven't been in the lounge yet, but this is where we kick it and we talk all things positive and all things purposeful. So for those who don't know you and all the incredible things that you're doing in your community there in Washington and all over the world, let them know who you are.
So as Ebony B says, I am Aleta Haskins-Turner, native of beautiful Pacific Northwest. Born and raised here, the fourth of 12 children, born to Pastor and Lucille Haskins, where God has taken my mother on home. It'll be 4 years next month. So everything that I am and everything that I have hoped to be comes because of my parents. And outside of it already being ordained and instituted by God. Born and raised again, fourth of 12 children. At the age of 16, I kind of took a left turn, and that left turn led me down a path of a life of addiction for 32 years, and had 3 children in the process, where my parents raised them. Prison 5 times, been to prison 5 times, been in a few mental institutions, was homeless, slept in abandoned buildings, eating out of garbage cans, been raped, been molested, on and on, been stabbed and shot, been in overdose, had comas, been in comas due to overdose. Mm-hmm. And that went on, like I said, for 32 years. Walked the life of a lesbian, for 27 of those 32 years. But in 2008, I was looking at 13 years in prison, and I really did not want to do those 13 years. So all I knew to do was go back to my foundation, go back to my upbringing. And I began to talk to the Lord and tell the Lord, if you just get me out of this, and history is God turned a 13-year sentence into 90 days. So from there, I went back to school at 43. That was 13 years ago. So y'all do the math.
Okay.
Y'all do the math. So went back to school at 43 years old, got my GED, and got some college under my belt for human services. And where I always wanted to give back. I always wanted to go back to where God brought me out of. And so about a year into my college, the Lord said, no, I'm going to use your lived experience to make a difference, And so from there, God, just first 3 years of my walk, God took me to various events, church services, banquets. I traveled and shared my testimony of transformation and deliverance. And that was the first 3 years. And then after that, then God started blessing me with properties. And so working temp agency, working at temp agency. And I knew that this is just something that I wanted to do. So I worked at temp agency, just working jobs because I still got this criminal background. You know what I mean? Still got this criminal background on my back, and I'm getting all the jobs that I'm applying for because my 7-year felony history is enough. And so no matter what I did, I was just happy to be free from that lifestyle. And whether it was scrubbing toilets or whatever, I was doing it. You know what I mean? And it didn't matter to me because I was no longer in bondage. I was no longer in chains. You know what I mean? And so, and working and all of that and I tried it in my addiction, only worked for a month or two, but couldn't hang that long because of my addiction. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like I said, I knew I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And so my aunt was one of the first people that blessed me with my first property. And from there, God gave me favor with another gentleman and just been a stream of properties taking place from there. And today I am the CEO, the director, and the founder of God's House of Second Chances. And where I've been my own boss. I think it'll be 4 years in July. Time is going by so fast. I gotta go back and check the calendar, right? But but it wasn't without the no's. It wasn't without the pain. It wasn't without the fear. None of this was without. It was, there were days I'm like, I can't go in there. I can't, you know what I mean? I'm not going to get that job at McLean Northwest. I'm not going to get that job at Amazon because they don't hire felons. You know what I mean? But with God before you, who can be against you? Because I'm telling you, God was opening up them doors and he was making them ways. And I realized when I was going in these various places that there was somebody in there that God wanted me to minister to. There was somebody in there that God wanted me to encourage. There was somebody in there that God wanted me to tell them about him, because the job didn't last long. He always had me in one place and then moved me somewhere else. So yeah.
Man, and you touched a lot of lives, and one of those lives that you touched outside of mine was my husband. When you guys were working up at Amazon in DuPont in Washington. And I remember my husband coming home one day and saying, baby, I met this incredible lady, Mrs Aleta, and we were just talking about God and it helped me move on with my shift. And even those rough days that he was there and that you guys were having, he still has so much joy talking about you and just talking about, oh man, we were just worshiping God. And I know you guys are kind of getting in trouble because you were supposed to be doing your thing and he was supposed to be doing this thing. But the joy that he had and the peace that he had was, meeting another woman of God and working and whatnot and learning about your background and everything that you had went through. Some women would feel insecure, like, well, you're talking about at work, but that was never the case. It was just how joyful he was after he came back speaking to you. I know that there was something special about you. Little did I know he was watching my Facebook Live and
come on,
we were talking, on Facebook Live, and I'm like, what's up with Lisa? Such and such and such. So we end up running into each other in Centerway at the library when they were doing an event there for the community, and he was like, "This is okay," and it's just been history since then. I'm just so amazed by God, and I'm grateful that you are able to tell your story wholeheartedly and honestly, because a lot of people have not got to that point where they can be honest about what God pulled them out of, because there's no need to be ashamed, because I know what God pulled me out of. I've dealt with homelessness several times. I've dealt with privatized neighborhood and being in situations and doing things and selling things that I'm not supposed to sell, but God is not finished with you and he'll use you. Recently, I got to give a big shout out to this, because recently you just celebrated a birthday, so I don't want to go past.
My flowers back there.
Yes. Give a big happy birthday. She is the birthday diva. And it's my birthday weekend too. So I'm excited to kick off the weekend with you and celebrating your success. And guys, you're now tuned in live to Diva Spot Podcast Lounge with Diva Ebony B. And I have the incredible Aleta Haskins-Turner here. And we're going to be talking about everything from prison reform, mental health, housing, wifey life, all of these things that come into play. And that's my next question is, how do you, like when you first got that property and your aunt blessed you with your first property and you knew that you wanted to have a safe haven for those who needed housing, what was that experience like when you first got it? And what are 3 things that you learned from that first property?
First, I just didn't even know how I was going to even first obtain it. I knew what I had personally experienced with not having an address to come out to, just for various reasons, you know what I mean? But I just did not know how or what that looked like. And so with God, with his timing and everything being orchestrated before time, I was doing ministry. Actually, I was doing my community service hours at the Tacoma Rescue Mission. So I was down there putting in all these hours in. They would have the warehouse. Now it's a women's shelter, but it was a warehouse where donations would come through. And I'm putting in all these hours and, went from sorting out clothes to being at the front desk, and then every day people would come in there and, and hey, read me a scripture, because I'd have my Bible, and I'd give them a verse to encourage them. When that shut down, I ended up in the kitchen. I'm in the kitchen. Now I got my CD and gospel music playing. So I got the whole kitchen on hyphy, right? I'm saying, I just got it all popping, right? With the gospel music, right? And so then there was this gentleman that he would come in line and get his food. And one day I was sitting at the kitchen, the table taking a break. And he walks up to me and he says, "Man, I don't know what it is about you, but there's something different about you. Tell me your story." So I told him, and he began to tell me, on this particular day, you're going to meet. He started naming all these people in DOC. He started naming all these people. He started telling me, you go do this, get your license, go on this website and register with the city of Tacoma, go on the Secretary of State website. So he started telling me all this stuff. Sometimes he would text me at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning with this list of just contacts, right? And I'm not knowing any. So I would get upset and tell him, "Hey man, it's 2:30 in the morning." And his response to me would be, "Stay humble, my friend.
Stay humble.
Just stay humble." And so when I got the property and I was out looking, believe it or not, I was out searching for property. Nobody was calling me back. Finally, I said, well, maybe this isn't what God wants me to do. Maybe he had something else for me, Finally, at one time after Bible study, my aunt comes up to me and she says, "Nisi, are you still trying to do that thing where you help people?" And I'm like, yeah. And so she said, "Okay, well, I have a house for you." So with that time going on, I know, and the gentleman gave me a time frame, December. He said December the 9th. That's when you start going, you know what I mean? That came, and I was like, okay. When I got the place, and then all of a sudden, I got all my licensing, got all that stuff. And then before I knew it, there's another lady that was already doing what I was doing that had put my name in the community and put it out there. And so now I'm meeting all these individuals from Olympia, Teresa Hines, all these people, all these people that have the housing, that have everything in their hands. So I'm like, oh my God. So I look at him as my angel, right? My guardian angel. Yeah. Right. And so when just so many people from the community, my kids, my family and friends were coming in, helping me paint and get everything together and all this stuff. And it was just so nerve-wracking. And I'm like, okay, God, I was working at a temp agency, didn't have the money, and all God kept telling me was just to be still. I'm trying to figure out, am I get this and get that, Finally, everything that I needed for the house was literally on that block where the house was at.
Wow.
Talk about brand new, or it was on somebody's porch, and and so once the house is getting put together and we're having the celebration, the ribbon cutting and everything like that, and The amazing thing was, you asked me about 3 things. The amazing thing was what I recognized. The first thing was it was a 3-bedroom house, and I housed 5 women. So 2 women in the first 2 rooms, and then the 1 room in the back was a single room.
Okay.
5 women. And out of those 5 women, but 1, every single one of them I was in the game with. They was just getting released out of prison. And I learned in that moment that I thought I was really something in the game. But when you have the light of Christ shining on you, and how they're pulling on you for, Red, how did you do this? 'Cause that's what they call me. Yeah. Red, why you look like a girl, Red, and it was like, what the devil, I learned that all that I went through out there, the first thing was all I went through out there, and how the devil tried to destroy me, that God had turned everything for my good. That was the first thing I learned. And then the second thing I learned, now we're just going to keep it all the way 100, was that even though those were people that I was in the game with, I still couldn't be partial. I still couldn't be, let them get away with things, right? Or, okay, they slipped up today, and things that, because I had to remember that God was holding me accountable. He was holding me accountable. Are you just going to let them slide? Or are you going to continue to encourage them and tell them about me, lead them in my direction, and things like that, right? And every night before I went home, I would drive there, and before I went home, and I would go in there and I would ask the women, tell me one thing each one of you women are grateful for being here. And some wouldn't say anything. And I said, I don't care if it's just, Lord, thank you. Or, whatever it was. And if you didn't have anything to say that night, you'd have something to say the next night. And the 3 things that I learned, that God will make all your test into a testimony, and all your mess into a message for all men to see. So I want to say this to encourage you. And then I learned that faith over fear is more powerful than anything, because I had a lot of fear, because I still didn't know how to correspond, you know what I mean, with the people, even though I'm it's been 3 years and I'm walking with the Lord, but now I'm faced with where God brought me from. Yeah. So
I said, you're right. You're right there in the middle of the blessing. Now you got what you asked God for. Yeah. And here it is. And I love what you said right there. And big shout out to everybody that's tuned in live. It's your girl Diva Ebony B. I'm here with Mrs Aleta, Haskins-Turner. You here live on the Diva Spot Podcast Lounge. Big shout out to Shantae. Shantae is in the building. Shantae say, hey, ladies, sending love away from Washington State. I got my paparazzi on. This is a Z collection that I got from it. Shantae, you slay. All birthday energy all day. So thank you, Shantae, for being here. You guys can go ahead and comment and ask us a question. If you got a comment, just go ahead and put it in the comment section on YouTube, or either you can put it on your Facebook Live, and we'll try our best to get to your question. But I love what you said about God will use your test as a testimony, and he'll use your mess as a message. And I seen something with DMX, and I'm gonna find it and play it on the show today. But he said God is so incredible that something horrible and ugly can happen, and God does nothing to change it, but it turns into something beautiful. And from you going and being in addiction and going in and out of jail for 32 years in the game. Dealing with lesbianism, stabbed, raped, passed out, basically. But then look how God used you, and here you are doing incredible things. And to get back to what you were saying, now all the blessings is here. Now you're getting the correspondence. Now the people who are in position to lead you further into having this room and house, or I like to call it safe haven. Now we're looking at permits, we're looking at money, we're looking at all types of stuff that the state wants you to have. Now you're here in the midst of it, like, oh snap, I actually am a CEO. I am. I'm providing the houses. I'm not filling out the applications. I'm giving the applications. At that very moment when that happened, and I know it took a lot of praying, fasting, and being positive and loving people right where they are, because everybody that come home don't always stay home, and I get that. In that very moment, when you realize that you had a rock and you had to, and God had helped you complete that goal, what was the chat? What was the fight like? What was the experience like?
When I really, probably, I want to say probably 2 years had went by that before it even dawned on me that I wasn't looking for a paycheck, or, you know what I'm saying? I had to go to work. Okay. It was about 2 years. It was about 2 years that it dawned on me. And then when it hit me, it was a family event that we were doing. And I kept saying, and no, actually, that's not true. I was at the very first house. I was on my fourth house. So I'm at the first house hanging out. I call it the Golden Girl house, right? Because all the women there are their age and they're set, you know, these are the Golden Girls, right? And they ain't got time to be shucking and jiving, you know, and coming in, making sure I'm eating. And so I remember leaving there when I said, you guys, I gotta go. I got an hour drive to go home. And I'm so tired. And, you know, and then tomorrow I gotta go do this. And it was like, two of the ladies that turned and said, Miss Aleta, first of all, you ain't got to go nowhere because this is your house. Second of all, you can rearrange your schedule because you're the boss. And I'm just like, oh yeah. I'm just like, I am my own boss, right? I can rearrange my schedule anytime, as long as I give knowledge to Daddy. I can rearrange my own schedule anytime. And at that moment, dang it, I said I wasn't gonna do this.
And you can if you want to, baby. We in the lounge.
At that moment, I was just like, God, you have done exceedingly and abundantly above all that I could even think or ask. I never would have thought me, the heroin addict, me, the meth addict, me, the pill popper, me, the blunt smoker, me, the alcoholic, you know what I'm saying? Me with the mental illness with 13 different mental psych beds, being locked up in padded cells, eating out of garbage cans and living in homeless and abandoned buildings. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I never seen this coming, you know? And so at that moment, gratitude.
Yeah, breathe that through, Mama.
Just gratitude. So much gratitude. And so much thankfulness and gratefulness to God for picking me. You know what I'm saying? Or actually, I had to do my part.
Yes.
And open my mouth and tell him I needed help. That no treatment facility, no medication, no nothing could help me get where I wanted to be but him. No counseling sessions, no nothing could help me. But I remember days, and I found my journal the other about a year ago. And when I was out there in my addiction, that I used to journal. What would it be like to have a license? What would it be like to be sober? What would it be like to go travel? What would it be like? I wonder what that would be like.
Wow.
And what, you know, and everything that I would write down to put a check mark by.
Check it. And I said that we were just talking at the top of the year, and I'm going to get to these comments because we got some really good comments in here, and I want to make sure I'm showing love to everybody that's tuned in to Diva Spot Podcast Lounge. Thank you for being here. Man, you about to be uplifted, transformed. You might even snatch your front lace off, but girl, take your time. You might have to take your eyelashes off tonight because we're going to laugh, we're going to cry, we're going to grow. But yes. I'm so grateful about what God is doing and how he can transform us. And I want to get to some comments real quick. Oh my God, love you too. Shadrika, your daughter is here. She said, I'm so godly proud of my mommy. Man, what an opportunity that God gave for her to see you in this life. And I see how you guys work with each other. I see how you guys do things, how she's supportive of everything that you do. So that has to be a blessing for the heart. And I can only pray that my daughter would be just as loving and supportive of her. You guys are like two peas in a pod. Where you are, she is. Jessica, big shout out to Jessica. Oh, hey, Jessica. Jessica Luckett is in the building. Welcome to the lounge, Jessica. I'm glad that you're here. And I know that you'll be in touch about this story and this transformation. Jessica is definitely doing her thing at Hope Healthcare, and she does incredible things. We're going to have her on the show soon. So she's tuning live right here in Greenville, Texas. So I'm happy about that. Big shout out to Quita. Mind your own energy.
I love it.
We love Quita. She's always bringing the light. So we are grateful for that, man. And big shout out to Sierra. CC, I see you in the building. I'm so glad that you guys are here and getting all this powerful word and with these powerhouse women. You did something incredible currently. I got to go to this, and I'm so grateful. You reached out to me because you were having an event in Washington, and it was called Kings and Queens Day. And you reached out to me, Tasha Haskins, Karen G, and you said, listen, I want to put on an event for those who are coming out of encampments and in shelters, just to make it about them, a full makeover, hair makeover. And so I'm so grateful that you called me out. You said, Diva, will you do the glam for me? And I was like, of course. You know, if you're calling, I'm coming. And especially to do things for those in the community. Don't like Tasha said, a lot of us and all of us are just for the traditional way. And it's a beautiful thing when I was playing right now. I have to be a lounge podcast.
Got you.
I'm so excited. No, Still can't.
It's in and out.
It's in and out. Okay.
Okay, I think we got it.
Am I good now?
You're good.
All right. We're in the lounge so we can kick it. So don't worry about it. Sometimes
Right.
that can happen. And this is what I wanted the show to be. So we can just relax. We're in the lounge. It's Friday night. You know, I'm kicking it. No need, you know, it is this is not scripted. Okay. This is already. But I love what you did with the Kings and Queens Day and having that vision. Where did that vision come from, and how, you know, it was placed on your heart, but how did that come about? And everything that happened at that event that day, was it the vision that God gave you? Did it all come to pass? Like, how did this come?
So about a year and a half, 2 years ago, God gave me a vision. I was sitting in my living room and I could see it so clear and so plain, to go into the encampment. And because I was already going into the encampment every Thursday, we go into the encampment, we cook, we prepare hot meals, you know, in the winter, summertime, we, you know, do cold meals or whatever. And we give, you know, the clothing and all that. And we find out what their needs are, whether if they're ready to go to treatment, we make sure they get there, detox, med regimen, and then they come to God's house. And so God was showing them and just being out there. And I was always saying, I wonder, you know, like they would say, oh, that's so pretty. And I would take it off and give it to them, you know, whatever I had on. And I would just take it off. And so one night I was sitting in my living room and the Lord showed me so clearly. He said, I want you to go gather 5 to 10 homeless women and 5 to 10 homeless men. And he said, you do a total makeover on them. He said, I want you to get a limousine and you take them to the venue that you have. And so when I started executing it, when actually it was one of the homeless women that, houseless is the word I like to use, houseless.
Thank you. I love that word, houseless.
Yeah, houseless. So one of the houseless women that came up to me and they were like, Miss Aleta, because I started making the announcement last year, having the flyers and all of this, and you know, and they're excited and they're just so excited. So time goes on, life happens, things happen to me, accidents and all this other stuff, right? And so one of the women came up to me back in November, and she was like, Miss Aleta, are you still going to do that thing where you come and get us and do a makeover on us? And I was like, okay, God, it's time. So in my mind, and I'm like, okay, but how am I going to do it? Because I had already prepared, got like just the big old wedding canopy, because I wanted to do it in the summertime. I'd already been scouting out the venue, which is going to be down in Ruston Way, down there over by the water, just all these things, right? But now it's wintertime. So I'm saying, okay, God, but he showed me everything. And then at that time, last year, donations started coming through. So what I started doing is, some donations are suits and some people are giving me nice gowns. And so I started putting them all in a tote. I just started putting them all up, bras and all kind of stuff. I just started putting them away. And then when the time started coming and I said, okay, God, this one, and he gave me the date. This one, I'm not gonna be able to do by myself. I've done other events, you know.
You got plenty of events, and you do a feed every Thursday. Let's not forget.
Every Thursday, rain, sleet, hell, or snow, we go out. I go out and I load my car with fresh food, cooked food, hot food, cocoa, clothes, blankets, hoodies. I mean, hygiene products, you know. Add anything, towels, you know, sanitary napkins, everything, shaving cream, all that stuff for the men, you know, and take it out there. And I don't know what volunteer from week to week that is coming. I just know I do it and God prepares the rest.
They're consistent.
And so then I said, okay, God, I would love to have on this event, because I could just feel it was going to be a royal event, royalty. And so I said, okay, God, I need you to tell me the women that I want, Lord. I've seen them and I've watched them and I've been following them and they don't know it, how I admire them. They're always telling me. And I said, God, I told him, he said, make your request known. I said, and then about a month before that, my niece, Tasha, Dr. May Haskins, his former Curvey.
Mhm.
She came to me and she said, Auntie, I feel that God is telling me to start working with you. And my mouth was just like, what an
What?
honor. And then it was my niece. And then I said, Lord, I would love to work with Ebony. I would love to work with Karen. And when I reached out, and first the fear set in, like, these women are busy. These women got lives. These women,
Come on, let's talk about
and then as quick as it came, though, I had to shake it because that was my request that I made known. He said, make your request known. I made that request known. And when I presented it, we all came together and we started having our meetings.
Yes.
And it was just amazing because, and then there was another beautiful, beautiful couple, Linnea and Terrell Taylor, Miss Curvey 2020. I think she's going to be Miss International or Miss Condis. You guys check out her page, check out their page. They're on Facebook. Check out Tasha May's page, check out Karen's page, but anyway, when we started having our meetings, and I knew it was a God thing, because each individual knew each other. They had past history with each other. They had past dealings with each other. And so I'm just like, I'm listening. The first meeting, I'm not saying a word. I'm just like,
you said word.
Like, are you serious? Or they already know each other. They already have past history with each other. They've gone through this together and gone through that together. And so, and just putting it together for me, because I've dealt with other people before, and I'd have to pick, like, did you get that done? And oh God, and I'd have to go do it. And did you get that? And oh my God, okay, I gotta go do it. And but with Ebony and with Karen and with Tasha, it was such a peace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like I didn't have to pick the phone up. Are you sure you got that? And because I've watched them operate in excellence. I've watched them, like Ebony was saying. I was scrolling on my Facebook one day and Ebony came up on there and she was talking about her life. And I just stopped and listened to her and just watched her. I just loved her jovialness and her driving and her appreciation for the different people. I think it was at Clover Park that you were giving the shout outs to, and how they were helping her and how they were a blessing to her. And then I would see Karen and I mean, when I met Ebony in person, I thought I was going to lose my mind because I didn't know she was in Washington. I thought she was in a whole other state. But I knew she was
Yep.
I did. I thought she was, even though I heard her say Clover Park Tech and all that stuff and everybody's, but in my mind, I'm like, wow, that lady is phenomenal. Wow, she's overcome a lot like me. You know what I mean? And she's striving to do everything according to God's will, and just whatever her vision is, like, I'm not going to let nothing stop me, right? So,
and I think that's important.
I mean, just to be.
But I'm sorry. I just think that's important. A big shout out to Angie on the check-in. Angie, we see you. Angie, we see you, honey. We thankful that you are here.
Yeah.
There's another queen. Queen, I'm glad you are here. But I think that's important we go from striving to thriving. God is bringing us to a thriving place. Yeah. And each of these things that we go through in life, like, I'm not afraid to talk about my homelessness. I'm not afraid to talk about the block that I used to be on to sell drugs. I'm not afraid to talk about my vulnerabilities and insecurities. Like, I'm going to tell my story. Nobody's going to tell my story to me. You're not going to Whitney Houston me. Shout out to Whitney. Got much love for the queen. But, hey, Marsha, big shout out to Marsha. Listen, it's important for us to thrive, and keep pushing and keep going, because your blessing or your breakthrough or your building or your company or your husband or your child or breaking chains can be broken 24 seconds. We be looking for 24 hours, but if you don't press forward, if you don't press through, then you may not be able to get to it. And I love what you said when you was like, I want to work with these women, and I call them the day.
In and out again.
Women are. It's a lot.
All right. Come on, Jesus.
Just to move the whole thing. I know what it is.
There we go.
There we go. I had to move the whole
Yep.
thing. There it is. All right. I knew what the devil was trying to do, and he was trying to stop me. And I have so much drive that no only means it's another way. That's what no means. It means it's another way. So I'm just grateful to God. Thank you, Queen, for the happy birthdays. But go ahead, Queen.
Yeah, and and so just to have that peace and that trust and that hope, you know what I'm saying? That God, and I know, it's hard to describe, but you just know that that the people that you ask God for were the ones that God had already ordained before the foundations, right? So the day of the event, I think we all were, the night of or the day of, I think we all were being hit. And things started happening. And I said, oh, yeah, this thing is about to be off the chain. You showing up like this? Oh, you showing up on the scene? Oh, you think you about to stop and discourage? And oh, really? Oh, no, that means it's about to go down. And so just even when because I wasn't gonna get dressed at the hotel with the other ladies. I want that to be their moment, right?
Yeah.
But it ended up I got dressed there. I was able to get my makeover done, and it was just, I mean, God was just orchestrating the whole thing with the Queen AJ coming in and laying out the beautiful appetizers out there for them, and and so it was like
and they
due to whatever.
They look incredible. It was so incredible to see.
Everything was done in excellence.
It was their transformation, and just to make it about them that day and see them get into their dresses and their suits and doing their makeup. Big shout out to Dovey. Dovey and Michelle came through. Dovey Seattle, my glam team. They came through. They heard I was coming in, wanting to be a part of the mission. And I think everything went in excellence because everybody had a heart to serve.
And the men, I mean, because I had, just to watch them and all the suits and all the ties and all the shirts and all this shit, everything that was donated, right? It was like, I don't know how many suits are in that room, and they were just in there. And each gentleman, I didn't size fit nobody, get no measuring. Y'all see my sewing machine back there? I didn't get no measuring tape before. I didn't do 34, 36. I didn't do none of that. He had every single suit. Our Father had every single suit that they picked up and tried on. It was fitting. They were, and just to watch their expressions. And then my son is a barber, so he came in and groomed them up. Shout out to Kurt. That's my son, my oldest son. And just to watch their excitement, like, is it my turn? I want to get mine done. And can you do this? And and just to see the women and just the smiles, just going from the nervousness to the, wow, it's been so long since I've been able to do this. Like this. Exactly. And just to, and just to watch them and their beauty and in their glory was just, I mean, breathtaking. It was so, and watching them get in the limousine and, and then it was just everything and more. It was more because God showed up.
Mm-hmm.
It was so. I told God, I said, God, I don't want this just to be an event, just some event. I want this to be a life-changing experience for everybody in the room, including me.
And it was. I mean,
and it was.
When I left that event, I was transformed. Like I felt like when you're focused on doing what God made a way for me and Queen to get there. We flew out from Texas Everything was in
Yeah.
order. She was with her father. Everything was in place. And even when the devil tried to cause confusion, because that's what he's going to do, and that's where you got to know how to stand on your square. You got to know how to stand on your post. You got to stand on the word and encourage yourself. That's why Yolanda says you have to encourage yourself in the Lord.
Yeah.
We still say, listen, this ain't about us. This is about
Yeah.
what God will have us to do. And I came back so fulfilled and a
Yeah.
lot more knowledge. And God revealed so many things to me
Yeah.
that in those the people, places, and things, those reasons and seasons are real. Like there's
Yeah.
going to be a season where you're going to be and people are going to be around you, but in the next season they can't go. And
Mhm.
God released me from that because I like to hold on. I like to hold on to people. I like to
Yeah.
hold on to things. And God showed me, like, listen, I'm taking you to the next level. And where you going, you're not the same Ebony that you was when you leaving. I left one
Yeah.
way and came back another way. And that's why I'm so grateful that my name and your name and all of your names, everybody here is being mentioned in rooms that you know nothing about. God has
Yeah.
already has things ready for you. So if you got any doubt right now, ladies, y'all in the lounge with Diva, Ebony B, and Aleta Haskins-Turner. Listen, go ahead and get your tea, whatever you sipping on. We in the lounge and we being real.
Yeah.
And this is what we're gonna do while
Yeah.
we here. But the event was incredible. Catholic Community Services there. Landlord Liaison was
Yeah.
there. It
Yeah.
was it was like
Yeah.
companies, it was organizations there that was helping with these people to get
Yeah.
housing. And it was one
Yeah.
thing to dress them up and we all look good and we're
Yeah.
eating good and we're
Yeah.
those are great fuzzy feelings, but it was another thing for them to get resources to get into housing. So
Yeah.
that was powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
we have
that
to
and
make
that's
this
the
in
way
more of
that
our communities too.
yeah, and that's the way God had set it up. And it's just so amazing because the two of the couples that I had interviewed already prior and approved for
Yeah,
housing. And then at the last moment, God had said, now you invite some of the entities that you're partnered with
come
so
on.
that they'll be right there on hands on to be able to tell them the steps to do to get in there. Because when you're in houselessness, you have to go through so many hoops, which is so ridiculous right now. You have to go
Yeah,
through so many hoops, and then you're homeless. So, every day your focus is, what am I going to eat? Where am I going to lay my head? And
come
then I
on.
got to make sure I keep up with my backpack that has all my documents in it.
Yes.
That who knows at what time of the night, that it might get taken or whatever, right? So God had told me, He said, you get those entities there. So that a way they can have personal contact, personal time, their personal information, and be able to walk in and get the help, the financial help they need. Because, and then, you know what I mean? So it makes it that much more easier. But the event, I mean, just not even the participants. There were people coming up. I don't know about you, Eb. You can speak about it, but there were people coming up saying to me, I didn't know what to expect from this. I really didn't know what it all entailed. But they were
Mhm.
saying just the you and the other speakers were so on point of what I needed to hear from God.
Mm.
And I feel like a piece of what was having me bound was broken. I feel somebody else was saying, I got delivered today.
Mm.
It was just so many people not knowing, but was coming because, you know what I mean? They wanted to be a part of, the houseless experience. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But not knowing that God had something for them too.
I had a young man who walked up to me and he said, I'm so grateful for your message. And my message, and I told them, I said, I'm here to do three things. It's to light a fire up under somebody's butt,
Yeah,
to warn you, and to also let you know that God ain't gave up on you. But he came up to me and he said, I'm so grateful for your message because now I feel like I can take off these cemented shoes.
come
And
on.
I was stuck. And he
Hmm.
was like, I feel like I can take off these cemented shoes. I've been
Hmm.
stuck in some things. He didn't go into detail, but he said, I've
Hmm.
been stuck in some things and you did light a fire up under me. And, it was great to see the queens and kings come out and and show me love. And, I'm a humble person. It's really not about me. It's about God. We're just tools to be used for his glory.
Right.
But when he said, you helped me get out of these cemented shoes.
Wow.
That was powerful because I know how it feels to get stuck. And I always remind myself every day, and especially in the field that I'm in and in life, and we're going to switch gears to wifey life real quick. But I always remind myself, don't take nothing personal, take it purposeful. Yeah. Even when your feelings are hurt or when you've been lied on and when you've been attacked, this is the time for us to be stretched. You ask God for a new territory, you're going to be stretched. You asking for a new car, you're going to be stretched. Anything you asked for,
right?
Be prepared.
You're going to be stretched. That's right.
So much, and even God sending me incredible women like yourself and like Marsha and Shantae and Angie and everybody. Like when we open our mouth and ask God for something, know He going to answer, but be ready to put into that work. And speaking of work, being a wife and a spouse is work. And big shout out to Mr. Turner. It is work. And doing the calling, living in your purpose, answering the call to your purpose, and then also dealing with business, grandkids, your kids, somebody else's kids, and then you got to deal with your big baby, your husband. It's not
big
always
kid.
You're the big kid. He's the big kid. And we love. Big shout out to my husband. He's my big kid, but I love him. He's awesome. His spirit is so youthful. But relationship wise, how are you finding balance with this and still being able to have time for your marriage to continue to pour into it and not dump on it? Because all this stuff could make you cranky and make you overwhelmed. So as a wife and a business owner, how are you finding time to pour?
Well, it does help to have a very loving, supporting, and understanding husband. It really does. You know what I mean? But one thing I had to learn was that God has graced me to be my own boss. So I had to learn that while he's at work, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when I do all of my business. And then at 4:30, because he might be off at 5 or 6, my day stops.
Okay.
My day stops.
Okay.
That's the balance. And then there's no more phone calls. There's no more business being done. You know what I mean? And
like my hours are from 9 to 5.
My hours 9 to 5. And because before hubby, it was 7 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's the balance, and can it make you cranky? One thing I know that I love about my husband, he lets me release.
Yes.
He lets me. Because I'll come in, I can't take this. Oh my God, they done relapsed again. I gave him another chance. I'm tired of giving them chances. And he's like, babe, what do you want? What? And and I turn all that off, right?
Laugh about it, y'all. Listen, I know. Shout out to all the husbands and the mates out there who, taking those jabs and those shots when we pull it over.
Yeah, they're taking
my
them,
husband
boys.
always asks me, "Are you hungry?" I think that is his safe way of, calming down. He'll ask if I want something to eat, and I'll just giggle like, "Oh my God."
He did it again. Yeah, it worked.
It worked.
Yeah, but that's how I've been doing it.
I love it. Now, and moving on to another incredible thing that you're passionate about is prison reform. And I would think that you would be, the great candidate and a great person to be into that, because dealing with the system and dealing with prison and in and out of prison for that amount of time, and seeing the insides and outs, and really knowing what real reform looks like as an individual, as a woman, and just as an individual. What made you decide to get into that, and why are you passionate about this?
Well, I'm passionate about it because of the fact that I understand it. It was once me.
Yeah.
And I know that if I had someone or the opportunities that present itself now, because when I was going in and out of prison 5 times, when I was going in and out, the only thing they had to offer was DVR.
What's that?
And it's a development vocational rehabilitation. So what it is, it's you go down to DSHS office, you go in there, you sign this paper, and they do their best to try to find you a job.
Oh, okay.
And then they promised us this $1,500, but that was a part of the DVR that I just wasn't willing to sit all day, so to go back in, and now have these resources, being connected with temp agencies and Boeings and fast food places, and these places, so I can say, hey, go over there. They're already waiting on you. You know what I mean? They're already waiting on you. You know what I'm saying? Use my name. They already know me. We're already connected. And things like that. And so, even going back in to WCCW, Washington Corrections Center for Women, Purdy, and going back in there just so the women, and it was all ordained by God. Yeah. Going back in to do ministry in there, and the women seeing what God has done in my life was giving them. They were like, really? I really wish I want to say this for those of you that are on Facebook. I should have my pictures out here. If you really want to see what God has done in my life, go on my Facebook page and you will see my transformation pictures. And because I have them, they're here, they're over there. But if you really want to see them, go and see what God has done. In 9 months, my deliverance was instant. Everything, the taste of alcohol, everything was like that. My transformation, because I was 300 pounds. So that transformation took 9 months. Every month I recorded, took pictures of what I look like, and all the way down to today. And so that going in and just to give them that hope that there's more out here now, that you don't have to go through what you're going through, and going back in and ministering, and then telling them, letting them know that for me, I don't know anybody that goes to AA or NA, but for me, it was me surrendering my life to God. It was that's what has kept me last year, November the 9th, 13 years. So, that's all God, I'm telling you. Nobody.
Yeah, I'm very passionate. You got to fight for that. You every day. You got to fight for it. You got to fight for it.
Every day I had to fight for it. And just, but every day I had to fight, but I didn't do the fighting. He did.
Come on.
And it was every day, it was just a gratefulness. And I was even at all just with being just y'all go see my pictures. That's all I got to say.
Right on the screen, you just go to Facebook, put in Aleta Haskins, is scrolling across the bottom of the screen, her name. Go on her page, on her Facebook page, and check out her transformation and all the amazing things that she's doing. And also make sure you connect with her, and this is what this is about. We come to the lounge to connect and network. I want to make sure people are connecting with each other here in the lounge and above, so we can start doing more things internationally. You know, you never know. Aleta can be hitting me up again and saying, I need some queens to come back to Washington. We got to have Aleta come over here, Mrs. Turner come over here to Texas and do some
Yes.
incredible things, because it's on its way. And this is what it's about. And I love to be able to, you know, and I know how it feels to be the underdog. I know how it feels to be homeless. I remember, and I said this when I was at the event, I was in a shelter one time, and that's when I was still my Mary Kay products then, and sitting in the bathroom getting myself ready for the day. And this girl, Stacy Wilson, came up, Wilson, and she said, "Girl, why you in here putting on makeup and doing all of that? We in the shelter." And I remember turning and looking at her and said, "You in the shelter?"
In the mind.
I was like, am I supposed to look like? I said, well, how am I supposed to look? And I'm looking at her weird. Like, girl, I'm going to an interview today. I'm going to a job today. In my mind, I'm just in a extended, you know, home that looks like a dorm. And it really wasn't ideal of what I thought a shelter was. It was a nice building, and it was set up kind of like dorm style. I felt more like I was in college than I was in a shelter. But it's important for us to raise this awareness and go back into these prisons and go back into these communities and love people right where they are, because I know you work with people who have mental health, and that can be really difficult, and especially in Washington, it's very challenging. So what are some tips that you can give us, if you know, for mental health and dealing with family and friends who may be suffering from mental health illness, and how to help them? Because it's hard when they're going through and they're out on the streets and whatnot, and you're exhausted, but you love them and you just don't want to leave them out.
So the thing that I would say for family members that has a loved one that's dealing with mental illness, come together and literally let your voice be heard. You know what I mean? And there are things that they can do, but when they see that there's no one backing them, no one giving them, like I have my brother-in-law, okay? He's here and he suffers with schizophrenia. He suffers with mental illness. And when they say that, oh, well, we can't do this, and you know, this is all we can do. No, there's more. And you have to, as a family, you have to utilize your voice. Because if you don't utilize your voice and fight for your loved one that's struggling, then they're just going to be in the same place as they always were. You know what I mean? So I say to you, don't let them say, well, we can't do anything right now. They can. They can. Every day I'm connected with let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 crisis units here. Okay. You know what I mean? And so here in the state of Washington, one is Well Found, one is Greater Lakes Crisis in Parkland. The other one is and the other one is Greater Lakes Mental Health, and then the other one is St. Clair Hospital. They just opened up a mental health crisis center there. Oh, really? So, yes. In Lakewood, yes. St. Clair Hospital. And so so once they see that they have family that are in their corner and you're pushing them to do what they're supposed to do, then what they do is they can get them into crisis. They can get them in on the right med regimen that they're supposed to be on. And then they keep them inside until they're stable. You know what I mean? And then for those that don't know, there is there's a thing called the JOL, JOL''S, Joel's Law. And that is where you fill out this paperwork. It only takes a couple of days, that if they're not doing what they do, you can have your loved one admitted into a facility if they're being aggressive. And it's the Joel's Law, and the courts say, okay, let's do it. Okay. So it's called the Joel's Law.
Is that for like 90 days, or they just have them in there until they can
start? They have them in there for 90 days. They have them in there for 90 days or longer.
90 days or longer. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The Joel's Law. And you can Google that, and then however applies for your state. But it's a good thing. I think they started it, I want to say about 3 years ago.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
that it's important for us to be able to be educated, because in a lot of times when you're dealing with mental health, or when you're dealing with diseases or internal diseases, and you have the heart to help, but sometimes we just don't have the education to help them
Hmm.
and to educate one another how to help our family member. And
Hmm.
we get
Hmm.
frustrated and say, "Oh, I ain't dealing with them," or such and such and
Yeah.
such, and carrying on. Don't throw your family away, you know. And
Don't
and I
do
know it's hard when they out there. Don't throw them away. You know, God don't throw us away. Don't throw them away. But
it.
if they need
Right.
someone to get the power of prayer is so important. The
It
power
is.
of prayer is so important. I can't stress that, because it's prayer that got me off the streets. It's
Yeah.
prayer that saved me when that car was shot up. And I know I should have been dead because they riddled that car. I'm still
Right.
trying to figure out why I didn't get hit. You know, it's God who
Yeah.
saved me from suicide, from wanting to jump off the spires in Newark, New Jersey. Like, it's somebody who was praying for me and didn't
Mm.
give up. And I think that's important. And for us to have open conversation and not make it so taboo to say, "Oh, she just crazy," or "We just gonna
Yeah.
no
Mm-mm.
follow up." And then even with challenging the agencies too, and with these programs that's in place, sometimes they just feel like they know exactly what the family needs, and
Yeah.
or the person needs, and sometimes they don't. And I think we need to incorporate not just throwing money into paying for housing for a year, but there should be some type of money management program, some type of
Hmm.
accountability. Like, just
Hmm.
like you would go to work and work for your check, it should be the
Yep.
same thing. And
Yep.
I hope that that people who have organizations and nonprofits and Catholic community services, they start to incorporate um programs that can help them in the long run, and not let them get comfortable with their rent being paid. And in certain situations, you either have to be in domestic violence case, drug abuse, mental health. But a lot of us, we don't, we some of us, we don't even hit any of those boxes, but we still need housing. So I just wanted to throw that out. And Alita,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you being here and you just kicking it in the lounge with me, because
Yeah.
you know I want to get so almost
Yeah.
dropped my
Well,
thing.
one of the things that I require when they come in, when we're doing the interview, we ask them to give us 5 goals.
Okay.
So, and those goals, and then we encourage them to get a bank account, with a savings account where they can't touch it, no debit card, no nothing. Then we encourage them to go to their counseling if they need counseling, you know what I mean. And then as you're feeling better, we also have we didn't do it this year, but I will get it going here in the next few months. We offer the wellness component, which is the gardens. We have gardens in the properties, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a therapeutic component. So when they're feeling anxious, when they're feeling the anxiety, we take them out to the garden and we give them the little start. We open up the soil and we let them put their troubles into the soil, because they're bearing their troubles. And as they're watching, then now they're responsible for this plant. So
Yep.
every night, so now part of their chore is in the morning, you got to go out and water. It's, their gardens. I'm talking about 3 raised by 6 and the big
Wow.
old raised bed garden beds. So they're now responsible to make sure that they're what they have put in the ground, their seed that they have put in, that they're responsible to make sure that it grows right. And then just to watch them, one lady was a cutter that I had. She was a cutter, and she
Yeah.
was angry when she came. And so I said, okay, I have to go out to the garden. You mind going out here with me? And so she's, yeah. So
Mhm.
we get her out there, and I got my gloves on. Well, I don't have no gloves on, but opening the soil and putting the start in, and do the row, and then I do another row. And I said, hey, do you mind doing this for me? I got to go run and do something. And so she had been. I said, do you remember? I said, just go ahead and count 6, and then open the soil, put the start in, count 6. So she was doing that, and so as she was doing her, right. And the more she would do it, I just watched her countenance just change. And I started taking
Mm.
pictures of her. And then the light and the smiling and the relief of all of what she was angry and bitter about, frustrated about being there. Now they don't understand it. All of these things became this, now I'm able to ask her, so, how did what happened? And, what are your goals? And, you're so pretty. Oh, I love to do hair. So I encourage her to get her license and do a beautician. Some of the other people in the houses, they love to clean. I watch them and see what they're very gifted at. And then I encourage them to go get a business license. One of my ladies now has her own janitorial company. Another lady business. Another one of the guys, I watch how he works on cars. I'm like, you a mechanic? I ain't no mechanic, Miss Aleta. Yeah, you are.
Yes,
Just go get a business license. Everybody needs something worked on their car. So I find out. And then that motivates them. And then now the fight that I have is really not a fight, because once I'm done talking in the name of Jesus, it's over. But the fight I have now is that they don't feel like they need that medication. And that, you know what I mean? Because now they're learning that and they also have self-medicating. They'll go out and get the drug and all that because they don't want to take the medication, but now they're self-medication. But now they're saying, well, Miss Aleta, I slept good last night. I said, you did? Did you take your medicine? Oh, no, I didn't take it. So over a period of time, what happens is now they got to go to their counseling session. I said, well, tell your counselor you don't feel, but then they'll come back with a letter stating, well, Ms. Haskins, if you keep this up, we're going to remove them from the house. And I'm like, no, you're not. Not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
So I encourage them, and it's getting back acclimated to society. Yeah, getting back acclimated, getting those life skills, the small things, how to wash dishes and how to cook, and you know what I mean, and all those things, how to vacuum again. You might say, man, that dude is 45 years old. Okay. They forgot. They were out of touch for a minute. And it's the smallest things, like my husband's brother. It's just amazing to watch him now with someone that was out homeless for 7 years. And for a year, every day I would go to his encampment. Hey, brother, how you doing? And I'm like, all right. And when he finally got in the car with me, I took pictures, and the family lost him. They didn't believe it. They couldn't believe it. So it's just showing them, it's just befriending them and showing and humanizing them.
Yes. And that's one of the big things too. And I love what Angie says. She said, treat people like people and not identifying them by their circumstances.
There it is, humanizing them. They're humans.
She hit it. They are humans. They're humans. And we're going through life. We're having life experiences. And, and that's one thing too, like, even with certain shelters that I was in, and, they kind of looked at us and they didn't really respect us, and they forgot that we are people. Like, I'm a human being, just because, and again, back to what Tasha said, we're all one circumstances away of dealing with homelessness or, dealing with housing issues, and with the market going crazy how it is now. And I love the fact that you are encouraging them to go register business, be entrepreneurs. We need more entrepreneurs because we got enough workers. We got enough people who go to work, and there's the people who don't even want to work no more, but they do want it. Naturally, we are entrepreneurs. Humans were made to build. We were made to create. And that's exactly what we do. But I've seen situations where I talk with brothers and sisters who came out of the prison, and they were having issues with just getting the basic things like their ID. They're making it so hard for birth certificates and social security cards and all of these points to get an ID. That system needs to be a lot more easier. But I'm just grateful for, you and your team and everybody who was involved, to help people and don't look at people like the word felony. They forget that they still people. Like, they forget, like, the system said I can't get a decent place to live, and I can't work. That's a lie. And I can tell you from a person who it is. The only thing is I never got locked up. I was in them streets. I just never got locked up. So I'm grateful that I don't let my current situation determine my identity. And I want to give a big shout out to Grandmaster K. Y'all make sure y'all check out Grandmaster K. Love him so much. Great producer, great artist. Him and King Rico Suave, young brothers out here doing some positive things in the community. So I don't want to go without making sure I give them a shout out and definitely show them some love. So y'all make sure y'all check out Grandmaster K. I feel like a master. Make sure you check him out. His
Yeah.
music is out, dropping soon. And also make sure y'all check out King Rico Suave, King Rico Suave with Kindness Chronicles. These young men are doing some positive things out in the streets, and this is what we got these platforms for, and this is what we are
Mhm.
doing. So, I love being in. Oh my God, big shout out to GMK is in the building, Grandmaster K. Hey, Miss Aleta, showing love. We really
Hey.
appreciate that. But it's been such a journey for you. So my next and
Mhm.
last question is, what's next? What's coming? How can we help? How can we support? How can we make this help you grow this vision and this love that you give, this special gift that you give even more? What can we do? What's next and what can we do?
So the next vision is to there is a facility. It has 15 bedrooms, 9 baths in it, and that will be the treatment component. And so that's going to be the one-stop shop place,
Okay.
meaning all your counseling sessions, your assessments, your detox center, your drug treatment, all of those things, your housing, everything will be under this building. And so
I
that's
love
the
that.
next vision. And so I'm right now I'm sending shout out. I'm looking for investors. I'm looking for folks that just want to bless and so we can get this facility. We're gonna have the counseling there and yeah. And completing other this one will have like the other one over on where it's at, Ebony, over on 56,
Yes.
creating job opportunities, creating employment for the individuals that are coming out of incarceration, where we have a building over on 56 and M Street here in Washington, where it's being converted into a cafe. So that'll be an employment piece. The legendary fashions and more is being done. And all of this will be an employment piece for those that are housed at God's House of Second Chances. So they don't have to go out into the community and be ridiculed because they have this on their record. We already
Yeah.
know what's on their record. We already know what's
Yeah.
on the record because we're housing them. We're very familiar, aware of that. And so that's the next thing. And going into Texas, putting some properties up there in Texas. So, and just going and dropping God's house, just putting some properties everywhere because the where I've been traveling at, a lot of people have been asking me, do I have properties in Houston? Do I have properties in Pennsylvania? Do I have properties in Philly? Do I have properties in Boston? Do I have properties, because they're needed. And so those are the next visions. And then also too, I wanted to speak about the Senate Bill 6164. My
Let's
sis
talk
talked
about it.
about me being a community activist. We have gone in and were able to challenge all the Supreme Court judges
Come
on
on.
over sentencing our people,
Mm.
sentencing them to 30 and 40 and 50 years on a crime that should have only carried 5 years, or if not 90 days and been released. But we challenged and sat down 9 Supreme Court judges. And so now a lot of the men and women are coming home that had 80 years and 90
Come
years,
on.
and now they're coming out the gates. They're coming out the doors. My husband was one of them. You know what I'm saying? He had a long sentence over his. Speaking of my husband, I just never thought that I would be marrying. You know what, though? I was going to say, I've never thought that I would be marrying someone that had been in prison. But you know
Mhm.
what? I knew God had somebody for me that had to be like me, that had to understand my
Mhm.
passion and my love for the streets and for out there. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
so me and my husband are two peas in a pod. We both come from the gang. We come from the street. We come from the grind. We come from the hustle. You know what I'm saying? We come from the dirty dirt. But we were being as we were coming from the dirty dirt, God raised us from the dirt and gave us a new life. So we're thankful to God for that. But again, those are new adventures. To get Turner and Turner counseling up as well. And so we can just start counseling. Yes. Get Turner and Turner counseling up and going, because I understand all these entities that I've connected to, and I've learned something from each one of them, where there's a gap, where they're dropping the ball at, where they're missing it. Yeah, and they're missing it because they have book knowledge, no live knowledge. They
Yeah,
don't
no
have
live
the lived
knowledge.
experience. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no live knowledge.
So
Yeah.
having all of these components under one building is just, it's just gonna, I mean, even the daycare center, the daycare, these things, we have all of it, the daycare center, the everything is gonna be right there under the one-stop shop. So it'll be God's house treatment facility. So but we'll
Well,
see
Letha,
how.
thank you so much for coming through to Diva Spot Lounge. Thank you so much for coming through to the lounge and just
Thank you for having me.
sharing her story, sharing about the community fees, sharing about prison reform, mental health, Kings and Queens Day, marriage. Like, you're welcome to come back to the lounge, and I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they're going to say, we need her back on to come in and when you have time, because I know you're busy. Then I do know that you are planning on taking a little break and a vacation so you can relax if God have it, if this is his will.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have been very blessed by you. My
Thank
husband is
you.
blessed
I've
by
been
you.
blessed.
We've been
I love him.
transformed by your dedication
Yeah.
to the mission of God when he gives it to
Yeah.
you. And for you to be the example, and
Mm.
come out and show people, just because you've been to prison, just because you were in
It
addiction,
doesn't
just
matter.
because you were dealing with
Yeah.
lesbianism, just because you were dealing with
Yeah.
all these things, don't
Yeah.
mean that God
Mental
can't
illness.
use you.
That's right.
And you
That's
need to
right.
know, right in your mess.
Yeah.
And I learned that
Yeah.
too. Right in your mess, that's where God wants to use
Yeah.
you. So, Anita, thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Thank
coming to the
you.
lounge.
Thank
As we
you.
wrap up the show, do you have any shout outs that you want to give before we get up out of here? And you guys comment too for your shout outs so I can put them up on the screen.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to my daughter, my children. Let me tell you about my children. To see
Yeah.
us interact today, you wouldn't know I did not raise them. My parents
Mm,
took my children. My oldest was 5, my baby son was 3, and my daughter was 18 months. I didn't get
mm,
back in their life until they had their own children. You know what I'm saying? But to see us
mhm.
today interact, I'm telling you, God is a restorer. So I love my children. They support me in everything I do, and my 29 grandchildren. So I am honored, and I'm telling anybody that thinks because of your situation, I don't care, man. I'm telling you, I don't care. Do you hear me? I don't care what you've gone through. God can turn your test into a testimony, your mess into a message, and just know that it's not your past junk that you did that the devil is even after. It ain't even what you're going through right now. It's your destiny, your future, that what God has in store for you is what he's after, is why he's saying, oh, they're going to look at me this way, or they're going to judge me, and all of that. I have to minister on the 26th, and the scripture I'm coming from is First
Yeah.
Corinthians 6:11. He said, "Don't you know the drunkard, this, that person, that person?" And he
Prostitute.
said, "And such were some of you." So some of us were, and I'm gonna say, have you forgotten what your word was? It was your word. Ah, you guys, so don't ever forget. Don't ever forget where God brought you from. I'm telling you, brag about it, boast about it, because what people are going through today, they need to know that you
Yeah.
got there because of what you went through.
Mm,
You got where you're at today because of what you went through. And
mm.
God, he just lined it up. So be encouraged, you guys. Don't ever be ashamed to share where you've been through, because I'm telling you, somebody needs to hear it. And I ain't
Mm,
ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm telling you, if it wasn't for him, I would still be with the needle in my arm. I still be with the pipe in my mouth. I still be in
mhm.
and out of prison, in the mental institution. But I love everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Lady B, Queen Diva. Thank you so much. This has been an honor. It has been, and we ain't look, and God ain't done with us yet.
We ain't done. We just getting warmed up. We
We just
just
getting
getting warmed
warmed
up.
up.
It's your girl Diva Ebony B. You're now tuned in live to the Diva Spot Podcast Lounge. I want to thank you guys for being here. Please make sure you like, follow, and subscribe here on YouTube. Make sure you share the podcast and the live, and also make sure you connect with me and Aleta so we can do
Yeah.
more powerful things. If you want to be interviewed, or if you want to come on in the lounge and kick it with us, or if you know somebody that need to be in the lounge, please make sure you jump in my DM so it can go down in the DM and it can go live right here on Diva Spot Lounge. It's your girl Diva Ebony B. I love you guys.
And I have one
Keep
other
doing
thing.
it.
And if you
Go
go
ahead,
on my
Queen.
page, you'll see my GoFundMe. If you want to donate to my GoFundMe to make these things happen, the GoFundMe page is still up, y'all.
I
So
love it.
thank
The
you in
GoFundMe. You know
advance.
what? I'm glad that you said that. The GoFundMe page, and thank you. And this is why Powerhouse Women. This is what we got to do. Go on Letha's page and go to the GoFundMe and make sure you donate and support. All right, y'all, we're gonna get up out of here. It's my birthday weekend. What an incredible way to kick it off with Mrs. Aleta Haskins-Turner. We're gonna see y'all on the other side. Let's go.